Welcome to the Ways to Work podcast from Project Iowa. I'm Chris Noth, joined as always by my co-host, Jamie Loggins-Evans. And today we have the pleasure of sitting down with our very own Lisa Juckette. Lisa, did I say your last name right?
Yes. Yeah, awesome. You did. Good job.
Okay. So we're thrilled to talk to Lisa. Lisa serves in various roles at Project Iowa and is just a huge contributor on the team. And so, Lisa, are you just so happy to be joined by us today?
I am excited. I've never been on a podcast before. I've never been in a studio I don't know what goes on behind the scenes till right now.
We're excited you're here.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we jump into the Project Iowa, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Probably most important is that I'm a mom of 3 kids. I have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, and an almost 13-year-old. They are, what I do all the things for. So that's probably my most important role, is being a mama. I like to sing. I've been in a couple of bands. I sing sometimes a couple places around town if I happen to know who's behind the guitar. So that's really fun for me. I also row, or I, in the past, have rowed a lot with the Des Moines Rowing Club. So that's something that I haven't done in this last year, because river levels and then also just being real busy with kids. So it's something I hope to get back to, but I'm taking a little hiatus off the water.
You're pretty busy most days.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
How did you initially hear about Project Iowa?
So I was working at another job, another nonprofit in the childcare sector, and I wasn't making enough money. I wasn't getting by. So I was scrolling through on my Facebook feed and saw this ad pop up, probably made by Jamie, and it talked about facilitating. I don't remember exactly, but the idea was wellness and like self-help kinds of things. And I thought, ooh, I could be really good at that. So I applied, and there was a video that I had to make about like some sort of relaxation technique, I think what it was. I did 4-7-8 breathing.
Oh, yeah,
like
nice.
the Navy SEALs use.
I didn't realize that's what you had done.
Yep. And then I interviewed and got on as a facilitator with the Cultivating Careers program.
Very nice.
Right.
And one thing you omitted from your bio, I think, is that you are a doula, or you've been a doula in the past.
I am a
doula.
I
are one currently.
I am currently a doula, yes.
Okay.
I support women who are pregnant from whenever, like maybe they're thinking about getting pregnant, all the way through their pregnancy, childbirth, and then postpartum. I still go back and check on mamas because and the babies, of course, but the mamas come first. They have this whole new job. So, that is. I'm glad you mentioned that. It is probably my top passion.
Awesome.
Is birth.
And I bring it up because I wanted to ask you, Lisa, do you see any connection between that work and your work here?
That's interesting because as a doula, I support people through a process. I don't do a thing for them unless like I'll grab them a sandwich or a drink, or I can help out in some ways, but I can't do the actual work of birthing their baby, which is similar to what we're doing with supporting job seekers. We can't do the thing. We can't give you the job, but we can certainly support you for as long as it takes for you to get to where you want to be. So there are a lot of similarities. I sometimes feel like I'm a job doula, an employment doula.
I'm so glad you didn't just say like, nope, no similarities.
I'm sorry, Chris. Why would you say something like that?
Yeah.
That's really,
So you're facilitating the wellness piece, and then you've taken on a new role since then.
So I had been facilitating for a little while, and Gabby and I were talking pretty often about like, things that were going on. And she was like, we're thinking about doing this new thing. And, it might be great. It might be a thing for you. So, I'm still watching the Facebook, and time passed from when she said like, hey, there's this new thing that might happen. I was like, put me in, like, I'm ready. But I was, still working. And eventually it came through, and it was like, the job description. And so I applied for that job. And it was called a Rooted Career Coach. And people didn't really know what that was yet. We were just like, this was a thing that we wanted to implement, and we're going to put a person into it. So I jumped into it. And I remember the first day I was there, a gentleman just walked in the door and was looking for work. He was an Hispanic gentleman and was speaking Spanish, and I also speak Spanish. So I was able to talk to him that very first day. I sat down with someone and like did the whole deal. Like, what are you looking for? What's your goal? We got online. We searched for jobs in a tiny number of places that I knew about that day. Right. And then since then, I've learned a number of other places and spaces that we could look for employment opportunities for people. But it was trial by fire that first day. So the rooted part of it came into play, where like Julie's idea is that services need to be rooted in a space, so that people aren't having to be sent from here to, go down here for this, go down there for that, and just getting like dragged around the city, and often without means to actually make that journey. So to have somebody in a space rooted there who spends a lot of time there and becomes part of the place, the roots grow down. And so I did that in 2 pantries on the south side at D Market, and I also spend some time at the Urbandale Food Pantry.
You've met a lot of people. You've talked to tons of folks who are coming in. A lot of folks are needing help with food these days, more so than ever, I think. Right. So what have you been noticing from some of those conversations, or what would have been some of your takeaways?
Sure. So when we started, the idea was that if I could be in the pantries as an employment coach person, that we would be able to affect the need for people to be coming into a food pantry. That's what we thought. And that was, we found out really quickly, not going to be the case. Many employed persons need the food pantry. That's not going to change just because someone gets a job. They're still going to need the food pantry. And we found that lots of people on their way to employment had other issues that were barriers to them getting where they wanted to be. And a lot of those things were health, transportation. They don't have a driver's license maybe, or they've got some sort of history, criminal history maybe, or something's going on that they can't get past a certain bump in the road. So I found myself not only helping people who just were like, can I use your computer to search for a job on Craigslist? I was like telling people how they needed to get their driver's license returned to them. Like, you're going to need to go to this building. You'll have to have these items with you, and sort of resourcing people way earlier in their employment journey or on different side quests. So I have resourced people with all kinds of things. There's a lot of folks who have been laid off for different reasons, and they've maybe been at a place for 25 years, and they're brand new to trying to figure out, I don't even know how, like, my resume is 25 years old. This is all I've done. And then that sector is maybe full, or they're not finding a new opening, and trying to help people figure out how to change their perspective on the skills that they do have and say, like, yes, these are still your skills. Where else, what other space could your skills be helpful in? But that's still tricky because, it's hard to change. It's hard to have to dust yourself off from something that you've done for a long time and then step out into this brand new world. That's new technologically. It's new in like what kind of resumes are good resumes now. I had a meeting with one of our career folks yesterday, and he was talking about how he doesn't know how to necessarily use his phone to like look for things online. So like there's a lot of stuff that's missing from people's abilities because they're just not used to that way of doing stuff. He also talked about how with his resume, he had no idea that if he didn't have some specific keywords in it, that whatever intake from, the computer was receiving his resume might not even send it to a person if it didn't have the right stuff in it. So he was like, he had no idea. So we're really lucky because we do have those ideas and we can help people write a resume that will hopefully get seen by a real person, help them work on some interview skills so that they can have a good conversation. And we've had other participants who've been so excited because we talked about interviews. And then I had an interview that afternoon and I knew like when they asked me, do you have any questions for us? I had a question for them. It was great, because otherwise they would have been like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
And as someone who does interviews, that's a big turnoff to me, right?
Yes.
I mean, when people don't ask questions. So that's, just that alone is huge.
Yeah.
So,
So we were making big differences in people's lives, even when they're tiny, they add up.
Definitely. Yeah.
And one small thing can be that barrier that prevents them from the license, the job, the transportation, the whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even just having someone care that you are on this journey, because it's lonely. A lot of folks don't have big supporters. Maybe they don't have family around. And to have one person who, like 1 week, calls and says, hey, it's Lisa from Project Iowa. I wondered, how are things going? And sometimes we get really great answers like, I can't talk, I'm at work. And we're like, yay, they can't. We have a participant now who, I've tried to get a hold of her a few times and she's like, I'm working. So that's good. And, there are also others who I might contact and they're like, man, it's been a really rough day. And I'll listen for a while and encourage them a bit. And they're like, you know what? You're right. All I have to do is go do this thing.
Right.
I'm going to go do that. So like, every step of the journey, we can be there and supportive. And even after you get your job, we might not hear from that gal for a year or two. And then maybe she'll pop back in and say like, hey, I saw the sign out front, so I stopped in,
Right.
And they're always welcome to come back and to, share their joys and, all the great things, or to come back and say like, man, I lost my job again. And you guys were here last time and went through it and I'm back.
Yeah, you being that supporter is so huge. I just heard a stat the other day that said that 25% of the people that are job seekers right now have been looking for a job for 6 months or more. So a lot of people are in a long-term process of finding a job, and that's a long time.
Long-term looking.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not doing it with anybody or you're unemployed. I mean, it is very lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's costly as well to not have an income. There are a lot of people who are really, they've been looking for a while and things were going, like they were making it financially. They were doing okay. And then they get down to this point where they're like, this isn't sustainable. And, that's the worst feeling, to feel like a desperate, I don't know what I'll do.
Right. Because, you're like, I can do this for a couple months, right?
Yep.
Usually,
and 2 turns into then 4, and we're hearing 6.
Yeah.
That's a long time to not have a flow going,
And that's why, I think just why Project Iowa is unique in it's that we are creating that cohort, we're creating that community. So you're not doing it alone. And most people can create their own resume, right?
Sure.
But they may not know what you were talking about, like the AI
keywords
system or whatever, the
and,
keywords, or just even having anybody say, this looks really good. I think you're ready.
Yes.
That words of encouragement. That's just, so I feel like we just have a spectrum of individuals and resources that we offer people.
Yeah. And, if you're a job seeker, and I've been a job seeker, I'm sure you guys have too, it's not the same as going to a friend or family member, right? They're going to give you different advice. having a stranger look at your resume and talk to you about your journey is just different from someone you already know.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Because we give them the opportunity to be who they want to be in their employment journey, not who their mom believes them to be or their younger sister or brother thinks them to be. It's their own journey. And I agree, reaching out to family, they don't see your vision of your life. They see their vision of how your life should go, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not always what we're looking for. We're looking for our own path. So yes, having one of us be there is, I think people are really like fortunate, especially that, our programming is of no cost to our participants. That is like the value that we add to their journey, I think is like, I don't think you can calculate that really. Mm-hmm. One of the interesting things that I think that I didn't talk about at first was that I've been in the pantries for almost 2 whole years. And it took about 1 year before people people who I would see every time I was there started to ask me some questions. Mm. So and even now there will be folks who will be like, where have you been? I haven't seen you.
Right.
Because they know me, they recognize me. One of the gentlemen, he's an unhoused guest and he's just so kind. And we talk a lot about his daughter and him and how he was really trying to be supportive of her. And they both have struggles and things going on in their lives. And so he'll ask me about stuff, I've taken him to St. Vincent. We've gotten him some shoes. Everybody just helps each other out down there. And I came in one day and he was like, oh man, you're back. And I said, yeah, I was gone this week. It was my birthday week. I was out. Anyway, he said, yeah, there was somebody else sitting in here. And I thought, oh no, she doesn't know me. Oh. And I was like, oh man, how impactful that is that this friend knows me and it would trust me to ask some questions to. But when he went in that day and I wasn't there, he felt like he didn't know. And so it turns out that she is another community partner who is a navigator. So she's doing some of the kinds of resourcing that I'm doing. So I said, yeah, you can also know Melissa because there are other people who are also here to support everybody. Yeah. So,
that's
but
great.
that relationship building, I think, is a key piece of what the rooted model means.
Yeah, and it's not about going in and expecting quick results all the time. A lot of times we think, just throw some money at something and send someone over there and solve the problem. And it's
right. Buy them a bus pass.
Yeah, you have to build the relationship before they trust you and before just on that human level.
Yep.
And so investing the time is what you've done.
And for them, that investment, I think, goes both ways, right? Mm-hmm. Some people would just want, just do this for me. Can you do this for me? And I've had people come in who are a little bit demanding sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I'll let's talk a little bit more about what it is that you need. Because one of the things on our wall says don't do for someone what they could do for themselves. Mm-hmm. So I want them to understand that what I am offering them has a value too. Both of us are valuable and both of us deserve more than just a quick, give me what I want.
Transaction.
Yes.
Right.
We're not a transactional place. And I think that is a key piece of why once Project Iowa, always Project Iowa, or once they know me at the food pantry, they will always know me and they'll know that they can ask me to help them figure something out, from employment to a family issue, whatever. And I have a lot of experiences as a teacher and in birth and in in life. And I've had to go to the food pantry. I've been on SNAP. I've utilized all sorts of public assistance in my time. And so I am a qualified individual. I've done it before. Mm-hmm. I know what I'm talking about and I know what it feels like to have to say yeah, I can't pay my mortgage this month and I don't know what I'm going to do, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of the rooted model is that because we know everything intersects,
Yes.
right? And we have a tendency to work in silos. And so when you're there, you're able to address more than just food insecurity, right? And because that's just one piece.
It is.
It's just one piece of the problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Employment, I go on. Homeless, I mean, you go on and on. So the fact that we're able to bring it together, and we also at Project Iowa know that we can't do everything, right?
Right.
So I think that's an important piece that you can talk about as well. Some of our partners, and when you're able to say, I can't help you with that, but I can
Yes.
send you here or whatever.
There are some things that, like we talk about, like what lane are we in? And as a rooted model, the lanes are really wide. It still is in an employment vein, but again, to get to employment, there are a lot of different things that people need to overcome and need resourced. So yeah, it is tricky. And sometimes I feel like, yes, this is a thing that I should be doing with you. Other times I how to help you on your taxes because of how somebody didn't give you the right form.
Yeah.
That is not
Like, not
something
my
I
thing.
can, I can't even we will Google tax, stuff, whatever on my computer,
Yeah.
but I can't, that's not a thing I can help you with, I find that people tend to come up to me and just start telling me all of the things.
You have that look.
I do.
Yeah.
And often it'll start with me saying like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And they'll be like, oh, and I'll say, oh no, tell me more. And they will just go. But I'm happy to listen because that sometimes is what one person needs is to get this off of their chest and out to someone else, and that it's not my family. It's some
Right.
other person.
And a non-judgmental.
They're just hearing me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are there any other
nice.
inspiring or cool stories that come to mind that you think that folks should know about or that kind of stand out for you, Lisa?
Can you think of any that I've told that I should retell? I don't know. A lot of things happen. There's a lot of people. I do have, so as this rooted model thing has sort of been shifting and changing and doing different things, we did kind of step into a place where I was going to work with a few folks for a longer period of time, for a longer stretch. So I have 2 participants who I have been meeting with. We actually all just met for a 6-month sort of check-in in the last week. So these 2 individuals are very different persons, but I have watched how their lives have been going from the first day that I was like, hey, would you be interested in having my support like for a while we work on some of this stuff that you have going on? And one participant in particular, he's unhoused, but for living in a hotel. So like he doesn't have his own like for sure place all the time. Like it's a week to week situation for him and his son, who is an adult who has a handicap. So his things were really dark for him when he first started hanging out with me. We met the first time. We did some paperwork for some different things that he had been like needing to do, but he doesn't read or write well. So those were like, they were just going to sit and be needing to be done.
Yep.
For a long time. I took him to the courthouse. We got his marriage license and a birth certificate that he needed. So I helped him through that. His niece sort of found out that he was kind of getting some help and trying to do some stuff. So she was like, well, I told you I would help too. Like, what are we doing? What's going on? So between the 3 of us, he had some business cards made up for his work, and he goes around to different homes and places and says like, hey, I see your huge yard needs mowed. Can I do that for you? And so he just is a worker. So she made him some cards. When I saw him, like as I've seen him, his smile is bigger. He's gotten his hair cut a couple times and like comes in like feeling like a different kind of guy. And so that has been really cool. And I see him when I'm at the pantry. He's a daily guy. I see him all the time. We don't always like sit down and chat, but I just have been able to kind of witness how it's changed. And like what I'm saying is that I'm not doing it. He's doing it, but he knows that I'm like on his team. And if he needs anything, that I will help him get there. Most recently, we're working on him getting into some reading classes because he wants to be able to function differently in society. And so that's exciting. And the other gal, I've seen her go from not having her child in her custody to having her child returned to her custody and case closed. So again, I'm not doing the things, but I am on the other end of the telephone when she's like, I have an interview and can I put you down as a reference? Or I found out I get to have him back today. You know, all of the different things, I've been there for them. And they're both pantry users. So that's kind of how that process can look. If somebody wanted to have a little more intentional, like long-term support from one of us, that is also maybe a really rewarding thing that I get to do.
Yeah,
that's
amazing.
So, yeah,
what a story.
Yeah.
Fun.
Well, as we wrap up here, one last question.
Okay.
Why do you think people should seek out Project Iowa?
Well, our Cultivating Careers program encompasses a lot of things, and employment is part of it. But I think for me, the two parts that really drew me in were the wellness and the path to purpose portion. We have something to offer everybody, and yes, employment pieces are part of that: resume writing, interviewing skills, you know, how to look at your skills differently how could they be applied to other opportunities in the workforce. But mostly that we're helping people learn how to manage their stress, their anxiety, to get an idea that our emotions are things that we don't necessarily have to let drive us, but that we can, acknowledge them and know how to like handle them, learning how to make some different decisions that will change the trajectory of our life. So the wellness and path to purpose to me are what I think are like the guts of it that I really love. And I think that a lot of people, especially today, could use a way to relieve some stress and to kind of let go of some anxiety. There's a lot of it around, and I think everyone could benefit from what we offer.
It's awesome.
Well, we like to say that we're a support for the journey, and I think Lisa fully embodies that.
Absolutely.
She will start with a, hey, how are you? And then celebrate with you in the end, you know, and then continue to be in relation. So we are lucky to have you, and think you're an amazing job coach. So appreciate you being here with us today. It was a great conversation.
It was. Yeah, this was
great
fun.
Great to talk to you.
Thanks.
And thank you everyone for listening and tuning in to Ways to Work. Keep checking us out on YouTube, Facebook, all your channels. We're keeping the content coming. We got a lot more planned, right, Jamie?
We sure do.
Yeah, so stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon. And don't forget, we are Project Iowa, and we're here for you. Thank you again.